Hello there guys, welcome to another of my live videos. I do believe the majority of Manchester United fans now are demanding Ole Gunnar Solskjaer out in the football club, reflecting on our bad start to the season. Because let's be honest, we haven't really seen much improvements under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer than what we saw under Jose Mourinho, what we saw under Louis van Gaal, and of course what we saw under David Moyes. But I did say maybe Ole Gunnar Solskjaer does need time, to make further more investment in the squad. Because obviously you can still quite frankly say he's in the process of rebuilding this Manchester United squad. Now obviously Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is our fourth permanent manager since the Alex Ferguson era, and I did initially say we haven't really got the structure to keep sacking managers, despite the fact that three managers have already been sacked since the Alex Ferguson era, and we are not really known for a sacking club. I think we are tactically inept, to be quite honest with you, but obviously we lost today against West Ham by 2 goals to 0. I think you did see my reaction I did do on my previous video. So we've only registered 8 points from 6 games. That's nowhere near good enough, to our current standards. But yeah, there's a lot of Man United fans now demanding Ole Gunnar Solskjaer out of the football club. And I did say, if we do continue this bad run of form, it's likely that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer will be gone by November. Maybe even Christmas time and that. But I did say, that I'm hopeful that his tenure, can become successful at Manchester United. Obviously, the vast majority of the blame does stem from Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Don't forget, some of the blame also stems from the board and Ed Woodward, because we do know that the board weren't ruthless enough, throughout the course of the summer. But the question is, can the board, make structural changes? Can they give Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, the tools that he does need? Because for me, Solskjaer wasn't bad enough, throughout the course of the summer. He did recommend, 3 good players to the squad. We spent over £140 million on Daniel James and Wan-Bissaka, and of course on Harry Maguire. So it's good in the aspect, that we did, address some of the problematic areas, but we didn't address all of the problematic areas. But I did say it was going to be extremely difficult for us, to address all the problematic areas in one summer transfer window. So I'm happy in the aspect, that we got that experienced centre half in. I'm also happy, that we did get that right back in. But obviously, we didn't get a midfielder in, throughout the course of the summer, and that midfield area is one of the priority areas, of course, where Manchester United do need to strengthen up. And the board, didn't recommend any sufficient attackers in or any midfielders in, so you can blame them in that aspect. But I think the board did assure at the start of the season that regardless of what happens this season, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's job, should be safe for them at least this season and that. But we've enjoyed a really bad start to this season, and I think if this, like I said, if this bad run of form continues to persist, then we could enjoy a worse season this season than what we saw last season, because last season was a huge disappointment. We finished 6th. Obviously, we failed to qualify for the Champions League, and obviously, I did say in that aspect that went against us in the summer transfer window, failing to qualify for the Champions League, because I did say certain players would have had reservations about joining the football club. But like I said, our expectations this season is to finish in that top 4, and obviously, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has got to exceed these expectations and that. But the way things are going at the moment, we're not going to finish in the top 4. We're not even going to finish in the top 6. If we do continue with this bad run of form. But Solskjaer, does want to bring that, fear factor back to the football club. He doesn't want to bring that winning mentality back to the football club, and that we know none of that's been there, since the Alex Ferguson era and that. But I want, like I do keep saying, I want Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's tenure at Manchester United to succeed. But I have got, huge doubts about that now, to be quite honest with you. Obviously, like I said, we've played 7 games this season in all competitions. 6 in the league, and we've only managed to win 2 games, and we've only scored 8 goals, this season. That, so we're just basically not scoring enough goals. We're not particularly playing in bad in certain games. We're just not being clinical enough in front of goal. We might be creating chances in that, but we're just not being ruthless enough in front of goal. And obviously, that was a problem last season, and that's why last season we only managed 53 goals in the Premier League. But we could even, this season, score less goals, than what we did last season and that in the Premier League. But for me, I just don't think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is good enough for Manchester United. Take it out of the equation of him, being a club legend and that, and we are aware that he was a great player for Manchester United for 11 years. He flourished under Alex Ferguson's guidance and that. So in that aspect, he has got that proven pedigree as a player, but he hasn't really got it as a manager to the highest level. So obviously, that's an element of concern. Like I said, some of his tactics and that are questionable. But I will credit Ole Gunnar Solskjaer Solskjaer in some aspects. I think, he's got a lot of trust with him and his young players. It was also good that, we did get rid of a lot of the deadwood, throughout the course of the summer because, since Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's arrival, quite a lot of players have now left the football club, and I still believe now there's players that are no longer good enough now to represent Manchester United, but I didn't initially say that, in the last 6 or 7 years or so, there has been cultural problems at the football club, obviously, reflects on the amount of money that's been spent in the last 6 or 7 years, at the club, also with the dimension in the history of this football club, we should be in a much more of a commanding position that. But for me, I think I'm not one of these people that are going to demand Ole Gunnar Solskjaer out. I think he needs further. I think he needs more time. To make further investment in January, maybe perhaps next summer, because he is still key areas. Where Manchester United, of course, are lacking in that. Obviously, Solskjaer did, and as you say, he said it at the start of the summer. He wants to sign young British players, and he has confirmed. He's sticking to the same policy in that. So we have got quite a few players on our agenda. Who perhaps we could go in for next summer. But these, still problematic players with the football club. I think the vast majority of players so far this season have underperformed. Don't get me wrong. I think some players have performed quite well this season. But so I don't know what's going on with Man United, and we haven't won away from home, since the PSG game last season. Obviously, when we did produce that miraculous comeback, obviously that's one of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's most iconic moments as manager. But yeah, disappointing, defeat today, losing 2-0 against West Ham. That's actually our second defeat now at the London Stadium in 2 seasons, because don't forget, we lost there last season by 3 goals to 1, and obviously, that was back under the Jose Mourinho era, and obviously that particular game last season, was a turning point of Jose Mourinho's tenure at Man United, and this could be, this could replicate, with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer now, because this be the turning point, for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer at Manchester United. I thought, as I saw some of the highlights, today, we did, create quite a few chances in the game, but again, just wasn't clinical enough in front of goal. Obviously, Juan Mata had a big chance in the game. It was a City basically missed. Obviously, Harry Maguire had a big chance. McTominay had a good chance. So we did have quite a few chances. I thought it was pretty even in the first half. West Ham, had chances of their own, like I did say, West Ham have enjoyed a really, really good start to this season. They haven't lost, since the opening day of the season of West Ham, but they are a really, really good team. But like I said, I was disappointed, that Mason Greenwood, didn't start the game today against West Ham. But obviously we knew it confirmed that, prior to the game that obviously, Mason Greenwood, didn't travel, to London with the rest of his Manchester United teammates. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, recently revealed the reason why he didn't travel, with the rest of the Man United squad to London, because I think he's got tonsillitis. So hopefully Mason Greenwood, will be available for the game against Rochdale. But Solskjaer gave his overarching view on Mason Greenwood, and he actually, says it's impossible to leave him out of the team, when he's being very consistent, also when he's scoring goals and that. And, Solskjaer did show anyway at the start of the season that Mason Greenwood, will get more first team opportunities. Obviously, Mason Greenwood, scored his first official senior goal for the football club in the 1-0 win over FC Astana and that in the Europa League, and it was good in the game against FC Astana. That more of the kids got a chance, and in that aspect, of course, they gained more experience in that. But again, that wasn't a convincing performance. Against FC Astana, wasn't a great performance against Leicester the other week. There was some games this season where we have played well. There's games that we arguably should have won. Maybe we should have won at Southampton away. Maybe we should have won at Wolves when that, but it's our own fault. The blame does stem from Manchester United. But there were still certain players, I was impressed with today, even though, we did lose the game. I thought McTominay, played really, really well. McTominay, was rested midweek against FC Astana, and I think McTominay has become a fruition at Manchester United. I think he's done, really, really well this season. In regards to him being a long-term solution for Man United, I have, got strong reservations about that, and that, I don't know if he can keep the consistency up, and that is questionable, but I think so far so good, for Scott McTominay. Obviously, in his last 2 league games, McTominay's obviously been playing alongside Nemanja Matic, obviously, mainly so far this season. He has been playing alongside Paul Pogba and that, but I have been very, very impressed with McTominay, and he's only 22, and I did say, there's a lot of young players in the squad, that are developing and trying to improve. Obviously, there's also a lot of experienced players and that in the squad, but, to be fair, I have been very, very impressed with Scott McTominay. Fred, I think, in his last couple of games, I think, he's done really, really well. I think he did okay today, when he came on in the second half. Fred, I think Fred, has done really, really well for the football club, recently. Thought he did well against FC Astana on Thursday. Also did well in the game when he came on against Leicester. Again, I don't know if he's a long-term solution for Man United. Fred, again, same thoughts I've got of McTominay. I don't know if he's, if he can keep the consistency up. Fred, let's be honest, he hasn't performed to the same sort of level, as he did do at Shakhtar Donetsk. Don't forget we paid just under £50 million for him last summer from Shakhtar Donetsk and that. But yeah, I think we need to see more of Fred in the team and that. And I think Matic, does need to be dropped more. Matic has actually played. I think he's played the last 2 games in the league as Matic. Obviously, he's only played, from the start, obviously, due to Paul Pogba's absence and that. Obviously, we knew as well prior to the game, obviously, Pogba and Martial, of course, weren't included in the squad there out of injury. Obviously, we know that Luke Shaw is out of injury, so we have still got quite a few imperative players out there with injury. Obviously, Pogba, I think, has missed the last 3 games now with an ankle injury. Martial and Luke Shaw have obviously, missed the last 4 games. Luke Shaw's got a hamstring injury. Obviously, Anthony Martial has got a thigh injury and that. So we have still got quite a few injuries, but I am hopeful that Martial, Pogba and Luke Shaw can be back, for the game against Arsenal at the end of this month. I think it's on the 30th of September. But yeah, we have still got quite a few injuries in that. And I think the signings that we did recommend in, Daniel James and Wan-Bissaka and Harry Maguire, I think they've been really, really good as well. So I will credit them in that aspect. As we all know, Daniel James did play in the game today. There were doubts before the game that he could have missed out because obviously he's recently had a knock injury, hasn't he? Obviously he sustained this knock injury in the 1-0 victory over Leicester. So obviously he missed the FC Astana game midweek. But he did regain full fitness in time because Daniel James did travel with the rest of his Manchester United teammates. But I think Daniel James, I don't think he was bad today. I think he's enjoyed a good start to this season as Daniel James. He has scored 3 goals so far this season. I think he's actually joint top goal scorer alongside Marcus Rashford. But I think to be fair, Daniel James he's settled in very, very quick as a Manchester United player. And I've got the same thoughts about Wan-Bissaka. Again, a lot of people believe he's been one of our most consistent signings as Wan-Bissaka. He's obviously a right back. I think he can be our right back for the next decade. Obviously, his distribution, that's really, really good. And I don't think he was bad today. I think he did make some vital interceptions in that. But I think the vast majority of the games, this season, Wan-Bissaka has played really, really well. And I think Harry Maguire, has settled in, fantastically well as a Manchester United player. I think him and Lindelof are complementing each other, in our backline, fantastically well. But like I said, the 3 players, we brought in were really, really good, but we just know it isn't enough. And I think, Manchester United, need at least, 3 more world-class players, if we are to be, future title contenders. If we are, to, be future title contenders, because I don't think, we're going to win the league, at least for the next 2 to 3 years, in all honesty. I hate to say that, but, I'm just being blatantly honest. Obviously, we've got some other bad news as well, as he updated you. Rashford now has sustained an injury, so he's another player now injured. Rashford, I think, sustained quite a few injuries last season. That he came off in the game. Obviously, Jesse Lingard, came on to replace him. We do know that Jesse Lingard has recently, been out with illness and that, he hasn't enjoyed, a great start to this season. But yeah, Rashford's got an injury. I don't know how severe the injury is yet, but I'm hopeful, the injury is not too severe. Let's be honest, Rashford hasn't enjoyed a great start to this season. I'd say in parts he's done quite well, but he hasn't performed to the same sort of extent as how, Martial, Daniel James and Wan-Bissaka and Harry Maguire or McTominay's performed. I think even McTominay has actually, performed better than Rashford so far this season, because Rashford in the last 3 league games or so has been full enhancing Martial's role, because obviously it confirmed at the start of the season that Martial has been given her that number 9 shirt and that, because they are compatible in that aspect. Martial can play centrally, obviously and out wide, because Martial does actually primarily play out wide on the left, and Martial can play centrally, can play out wide, so they are compatible in that aspect. But I think Martial is more effective in that central position than Marcus Rashford and that. And like I said, Martial has been a huge miss. Martial has scored 50 goals for Manchester United. Obviously, Martial's now into his 5th season as a Manchester United player. Obviously, don't forget, he got given a new contract back in January and that. But I think, he should be back for the game against Arsenal. Because I think, even if Luke Shaw, Martial and Pogba, all regain full fitness for the game against Rochdale midweek, I can't see them, really playing in that game, because I think that's actually another particular game against Rochdale in the Carabao Cup where Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, will go more with the youth. So he will obviously, make alterations and that in the squad. But Martial, before he sustained his injury, I think he's enjoyed a good start to this season. And like I said, he can score at least from between 15 to 20 goals this season if he can keep the consistency up and he can avoid, obviously, sustain any more injuries and that. But yeah, I love Martial a lot. And Luke Shaw, like I said, analysing the majority of his Man United career, I think he's been mainly consistent. We have seen, Luke Shaw's had some rough patches, during his Man United tenure. Obviously, he sustained quite a few injuries. I think he sustained quite a few injuries, when he was younger at Southampton and that. But analysing the majority of his career, I think he's been mainly consistent. Luke Shaw won the double player of the season last season. Don't forget, reflecting on his impressive performances. And Luke Shaw, when he plays, he does make a difference on that left-hand side, when he's on form. Obviously, we do know that Eric Bay's a long-term absence. Obviously, Fosu Mensah's obviously in long-term absence with injury. We do know that Lee Grant, of course, is out with injury now. So we have still got a few injury problems in the team. But for me, I think some of the players, we was in for throughout the course of the summer, probably more than likely, we will reignite our interest in them in January. Maybe we'll wait to go in for some of them next summer and that. But it just was a shame, throughout the course of the summer, that we didn't, recruit a replacement for Ander Herrera. We didn't recruit a replacement for Marian Fellaini. We didn't recruit a replacement for Romelu Lukaku. So that's, in that aspect, that's very, very disappointing and that. But I did say, this has a part to play in as well. We haven't been it hasn't only been this summer. We wasn't competitive enough in this current window. Obviously, we haven't been competitive enough in the last 4 to 5 windows. Obviously we didn't get anyone in January. Reflecting back last summer under the Jose Mourinho, where we didn't get our priority targets in that, because obviously Jose Mourinho's priority target last summer, of course, was to recommend a defender in to the football club. And obviously Solskjaer Jose Mourinho only recommended 3 players in last summer. We got Dalot for just under 20 million from Porto. We got Fred for just under 50 million, and obviously we got Lee Grant from Stoke. So that just shows, we haven't been competitive enough in these transfer winners, and analysing our recruitment policy, it isn't too good, to be quite honest with you in that. But Solskjaer did get some of the players that I wanted in, but he didn't get all of the players, that I did want in anywhere. But like I did say, always spending big on players and getting them Glasgow players doesn't always guarantee you success. And that's been proven with Manchester United in the last 6 or 7 years or so. And I think there's obviously the vast majority of Man United fans as well, not only demanding Solskjaer out, they're also criticising Ed Woodward on the board. I think a lot of United fans, want Ed Woodward out, because obviously Ed Woodward, is a vice chairman and that. And obviously, it's his job, to oversee, what goes on at Man United, and it's his job, to oversee our transfer business and that. And Ed Woodward did oversee our transfer business, this summer and that, because obviously, we didn't manage to get a direct to the footballing, because we was in for the direct to the football, throughout the course of the summer. And I did say, we needed to get a direct to the footballing, and I did say that's, probably one of the structural changes, that we did need at the football club. But I did say at the time we was in for the direct to the football, we need to recommend someone in who knows about the football club, someone who, of course, has got the experience in that. But we didn't get a direct to football, and you could arguably say maybe if we'd got that direct to the football at the start of the summer or midway point of the summer, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer would have maybe been backed more in that. But we have got big ambitions for the future, and obviously them ambitions are to get us back to competing, get us back up there, of course, winning a silverware and that. And we're nowhere near doing this at the moment. But I am, very, very disappointed. And I said, I haven't really seen, much improvements this season, than what I saw last season, really. I think this season so far, is just mainly, replicating, of course, what I saw last season. But for me, Solskjaer is still in the process of rebuilding. Don't forget, the majority of this squad is not his. He's still inheriting players either from the Jose Mourinho era. Obviously, he's still inheriting players either from the Van Gaal era. They're still inheriting, Matty from the David Moyes era and that. And there's still players here, don't forget, from the Alex Ferguson era. So I think around nearly 900, an estimate, I guess, I think nearly around £900 million has been spent at the football club in the last 6 or 7 years or so. Obviously, under all the managerial eras. Obviously, if you want to take into account, what was spent under Alex Ferguson, obviously way over £1 billion has been spent at the football club. We haven't only invested a lot of money into the club. Obviously, we've also got players now on big contracts at the moment, as you all know. But we have got a pretty good team, and I said, analysing that team now as it stands, I think it's definitely good enough for a top 4 finish. But I just thought it's nowhere near good enough, to challenge for the league or of course win the league. Because obviously at the moment, City is strides ahead of us. Liverpool and that are strides ahead of us, at least 2 to 3 years ahead of Manchester United at the moment. But yeah, so I'm very, very disappointed. But I'm still not going to demand Ole Gunnar Solskjaer out. I know there's a lot of Man United fans, now, demanding him out of the football club because, obviously it's reflected on this defeat today. Now that all of a sudden there's a lot of Man United fans saying they wanted him out. Obviously a couple of weeks ago, there was no talks of, well, there wasn't many Man United fans at that couple of weeks ago, demanding Ole Gunnar Solskjaer out. When we beat Leicester, obviously, we beat FC Astana, midweek. So for me, he does need more time because obviously, if we had to sack Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, who would you recommend into the football club? What are the fundamental changes going to be? What are the fundamental changes going to be? If we get rid of Solskjaer and recommend someone else in, but who would you bring in? That is the question because before we actually appointed Ole Gunnar Solskjaer in last season, obviously he did get recommended into the football club in December of last year. Following the dismissal of Jose Mourinho, obviously Solskjaer came in. He came as interim manager at the football club. He had 3 months as interim manager. He did really, really well in that 3-month period. The results were good, the performances were good. He was getting the best out of these group of players, and he exceeded expectations. But since Solskjaer got the job, earlier on, in March this year, everything, just seemed to have all gone wrong. But don't forget, the football club, were in. There was quite a few candidate names mentioned, who could have taken that managerial role at Man United before Solskjaer, don't forget, got appointed in. Obviously, for a long time, was in for Mauricio Pochettino, from Tottenham, don't forget, was in for Zinedine Zidane and that. And I did say at the time, the only way they would have come into the football club is if, as if they would have been assured, a substantial amount of money, to spend in that. Obviously, Pochettino's obviously experienced. He hasn't got that proven pedigree yet of winning the silverware because he hasn't won out as manager yet. But I think analysing the majority of his tenure with Tottenham, I think he's mainly done a good job. He's good at developing young players in that. He's now into his 6th season as Tottenham manager. Don't forget, Tottenham got to their first ever Champions League final last season, against Liverpool, and that obviously lost it 2-0. But at the time we was in for Pochettino, it did initially say, we'd have to pay a compensation of around, 35 or 40 million pounds, plus Pochettino doesn't know the traditions of the club, like Solskjaer does. So obviously, Solskjaer, we recommended him in because obviously, he knows the culture of the club. Obviously, he was a cheaper solution because Solskjaer only cost us a couple of £1 million, to get him in as interim manager. Then we paid, I think, a further 7 or 8 million to Mould, to give him the job permanently. And that maybe, I was saying last season, though, maybe we did give Ole Gunnar Solskjaer the job too early. Maybe we should have waited until the end of last season, or maybe we should have waited at some point until this season. That because it was going well, when he was the interim manager at the football club. But yeah, so for me, I would give him a bit more time. Obviously, everyone, will have different opinions on it. I do believe. But in January, we've definitely got to see, what midfielder, we can recommend into the football club. I was reading reports the other week, and they actually, basically said, we've identified James Maddison and Jadon Sancho as our number 1 priority targets, for next summer, basically. We are aware, that they are going to cost us a substantial amount, probably Jadon Sancho is going to cost us in the excess of around £100 million, James Maddison's probably going to cost us in the excess of around 70 or 80 million pounds and that. But we have got the financial power, to meet them valuations, don't forget. Because obviously James Maddison is predominantly an attacking midfielder. We're probably seeing him as an adequate replacement for Paul Pogba. Because despite the fact that Paul Pogba, did remain at the football club, for this summer, I still believe his plans for the future is to leave Manchester United and make a move to Real Madrid. And obviously, with Jadon Sancho, he's primarily a right winger. but don't forget for the majority of the summer, was in search for right winger and that. So they're two players that are our number one targets, for next summer. But I think, anyway, we are aware of how much, they would dramatically improve Manchester United. Obviously, Sean Longstaff as well. I think, we could go in for him in January or next summer, because don't forget, we was in for Sean Longstaff, throughout the course of the summer. There was mentions of Callum Wilson and, Nathan Collins also on our agenda. And all them 5 players are British anyway, because Solskjaer, does want to recommend, young British players, as I said, to the football club. But I'm glad that, we did get that summer clear out, that we did demand, I said we got rid of a lot of the deadwood, these still now problematic players at the football club, as you know. Obviously, the players that left, obviously, Italy's been a popular destination this summer, for the vast majority of the Manchester United players that left. Obviously, we saw Lukaku go to, Inter Milan. We saw Sanchez go to Inter Milan on loan. So, obviously, them two have reunited together. Obviously, we saw Darmian go to Parma in Italy. Obviously, we saw Chris Smalling go out on loan to Roma. So, a lot of players, have left, Manchester United to go to Italy. But I think another problem is with Man United as well. We overpay for players. We've got a history, of overpaying for players, but then when it comes, to letting them go, where we let them go for next to nothing, and there's been prime examples of that this summer. We did it with Matteo Darmian. Obviously, we paid over 12 million pounds for him from Torino back in 2015, back under Louis van Gaal era, and then obviously, about 2 or 3 weeks ago, we let him go for just over £3 million. So in that aspect, we've lost out on just over £9 million. Obviously, Ander Herrera, you could arguably say, he was one of our best players since the Alex Ferguson era. I think analysing the majority of his Man United career, I thought he was mainly consistent. Ander Herrera, he did actually make a big difference in that midfield. And statistically, when Ander Herrera was here, when Ander Herrera was here and he was playing, we won the majority of our games and that. So you could say it was a mistake getting rid of him, but especially letting his contract run down and letting him go on a free transfer was bad business from the football club, because we did pay around £29 million for Ander Herrera from Atletico Bilbao, back in 2014. Harry Maguire, like I said, we did overpay for him, but I did say in these markets this day and age, you have got to overpay for players. The only reason I think we paid £80 million for Harry Maguire, because we had no choice, basically, because obviously, Leicester didn't really want to lose him. Leicester weren't willing to lower their valuation at the time, so we just ended up basically, paying the £80 million. Harry Maguire is obviously, the most expensive defender in the world now, and he's the second actually, most expensive signing at the football club. But I think, his valuation will continue to grow if he keeps consistency up. I've got the same thoughts about Wan-Bissaka and Daniel James. But yeah, we're known for overpaying for players. I think we overpaid for Fred, to be quite honest with you. Like I said, we paid just under £50 million for him. But yeah, and like I did say, despite the fact that Herrera and Fellaini left, though, we have still got quite a few midfielders in the team. But the players that did leave Man United, that obviously didn't go to Italy. Obviously, we know Valencia left at the end of last season after he served 10 years at Manchester United. He was a long-serving player with the football club was Valencia. Obviously, Ander Herrera left, Fellaini left. I think a couple of goalkeepers, don't forget, went out on loan. Obviously, Dean Henson's gone out on loan Sheffield United. I think it's also good in that aspect, because he's going to gain more experience, is Dean Henson, because he is, very, very young. Obviously, Joel Pereira's obviously, on a long season loan with Hearts and that. So quite a few players left, but I still believe, these more players that, we need to consider getting rid of in January or next summer and that, and I think, players who are not performing well, may need to go in January or next summer. So I think definitely this should be Ashley Young's last season as a Manchester United player. I think Young has actually, played in the last, 3 games now for Man United, obviously mainly due to the absence of Luke Shaw. Young is obviously no longer our first choice right back, but don't forget Young can play on the left hand side. Obviously Ashley Young, was primarily a right winger when he was younger, but as he was developing, he got rotated as a right back. That's obviously now his predominant position. He's compatible in that aspect to Wan-Bissaka, because don't forget Wan-Bissaka was primarily a right winger when he was younger, but as he was rotating, obviously he did get put as a right back and that. But Young, obviously he's past his sell by date, and obviously that's reflected on his age age because, you know, he's 34. You know, I think Young is 35 next year, sorry. So I think, you know, this should be his last season. Don't forget the club give him a new 1 year extension last season. But Young's been a long servant. He has made over 300 odd appearances for the club in all competitions. He's been here 8 years. He's now into his 9th season at Man United, and he has been here since the Alex Ferguson era. Phil Jones, I think, you know, he's a problematic player at the football club. Is Phil Jones. Obviously, you know, Jones, he'll get his chances in the cup games in the Europa League, and that will Phil Jones. You know, obviously he made his first appearance, you know, midweek in the win against FC Amsterdam, but I think he's aging up now. Obviously, he's no longer good enough, in my opinion, to represent the football club. Don't forget the club gave him a new long-term contract last season. But yeah, for me, he needs to be moved on in January or next summer. Marcus Rojo, you know, he also, you know, played midweek. Don't forget in the 1-0 win against FC Astana. You know, I think it's good in the aspect, you know, that, you know, he's very versatile. He's Rojo, you know, he can play in various positions in that back line, but he primarily, you know, plays as a centre back. Rojo was subjected to quite a lot of transfer speculation actually, you know, throughout the course of the summer. At one point, he was looking very imminent. He was, you know, going to be leaving the football club and that. And I think we need to consider getting rid of Rojo in January or next summer, because I think his Man United career, you know, has been mainly affected with the amount of injuries he has sustained. But yeah, another player that needs to go. But we have still got 6 centre-backs in the team, you know. Despite the fact that, you know, like Chris Smalling got loaned out, you know, we have still got 6 centre-backs in the team. Matic again, you know, he's definitely, you know, he's a problematic player for Manchester United. Is the man Matic? Like it got reported out earlier on this week that up to 4 clubs are interested in signing the man Matic on a free transfer at the end of the season. Obviously, you know, I think the man Matic has given his overarching view on this season. I think he's, you know, become infuriated with his lack of playing time. And obviously, we know he's played, I think, the last 3 games, something like that in all competitions. But like I said, that, you know, that's due to Paul Pogba's absence. Actually, Matic was first choice last season, but Matic, like I said, his current contract expires at the end of the season. We do have an option, you know, to extend his contract by a further year. But you know, like I did say, I said the likes of McTominay, Pereira, you know, Fred, Angel Gomez, you know, I said either one of them are much better solutions than Nemanja Matic. I said either one of them, you know, are much better solutions than Matic. But yeah, 3rd season now as a Man United player, you know, 90 appearances, I think, for the club in all competitions. I think 67 of those appearances have come in the Premier League and that. But I think a host of Italian clubs are interested in him. I think it said Juventus, Inter Milan, AC Milan, and Borussia Dortmund are obviously a German. They're interested in Matic. That actually stemmed out earlier on this week, and that if we could possibly try and cash in for him in January. No, don't forget. But I do want him to leave the football club. You know, either way, because at the time we did get him under the Jose Mourinho era. Obviously, he wasn't our first choice anyway. It was like what our 3rd choice time. But for me, he makes that midfield look totally imbalanced. You know, he is too slow, and that's again problematic player at the football club. But yeah, for me, there's still at least another 3 or 4 players, you know, that do need to depart the football club, in my opinion. In regards to Paul Pogba now, I want Paul Pogba to stay at Manchester United for as long as possible. I'd like him to stay probably for the rest of his playing career, but obviously we know that's probably not going to happen. Ole Gunnar Solsjaker recently gave his overarching view on Paul Pogba, and he actually insisted quite recently that Pogba is going nowhere. You know, he still believes, you know, he will commit his long-term future with Manchester United and that, but I still believe, you know, Paul Pogba, you know, does want him out of the football club. You know, recent reports indicated out saying that Paul Pogba is set for. We're set to have contract talks, you know, over the possibility of, you know, renewing Paul Pogba's contract at Man United. I already believe that Paul Pogba's agent, you know, Mini Raiola, I think has had I think he's discussed with the football club, you know, regarding Pogba's future and over the possibility of renewing his contract. Obviously, Paul Pogba's got 2 years left on his current contract at Manchester United, with an option, you know, to extend it by a further year. I think if there's any chance of us, you know, getting Paul Pogba down to a new long-term long-term contract. Obviously, he would demand a massive increase in his wages. So obviously, as it stands at the moment, he is one of the highest paid players at the football club now. He's on 290 grand a week, so he's on just under 300 grand a week at the football club. But I think at an estimated guess, he'd demand somewhere in the region from between 400, maybe even £500,000 a week if he's to commit to a new long-term contract at Manchester United. Pogba. Obviously, Paul Scholes as well. Don't forget, he recently gave his overarching view on Pogba, and Paul Scholes, actually, did say that if we lost Paul Pogba, it wouldn't be a loss to Manchester United because, he believes that there's other players in the team, that can perform to his standards. I disagree with him on that. I disagree with him on that. That narrative, that he wrote out. I do disagree with that, to be quite honest with you, because you can see the difference, in that midfield. When you do take Paul Pogba out of the equation, even with Paul Pogba in that midfield, I still got an element of concerns about it, to be quite honest with you. But we do know a host of clubs winning for Paul Pogba throughout the course of the summer. Real Madrid were relentlessly linked to him. Real Madrid were mainly the team that would in for him. There was Barcelona in for him. There was talks about him making a return back to Turin. There was talks about him making a return back to Turin because he did have 4 good years in Turin with Juventus and that, but he hasn't mainly replicated this at Manchester United. But I think we're sticking, to our valuation. If we had to let Paul Pogba go in January, I think, it said early on in the summer we quoted out that we wanted around £180 million. I think we've said in January we want around £180 million. So basically, we're demanding, more or less what we demanded early on in the summer. So we'd only soften our stance on Paul Pogba if Real Madrid or any other team are willing to pay up to £179 million for his services. But I did say, the stumbling block of I did say, the stumbling block of Pogba's move to Real Madrid in the summer, obviously, was reflecting on the substantial amount, of course, that we did put on him. But Pogba said early on this summer that he does, want to leave Manchester United, and he did say, he was seeking for a new challenge. Obviously, he'll be also infuriated, Pogba, of how Man United are doing. He'll be also infuriated, that he couldn't, represent France, throughout the international break. Obviously, due to the ankle injury he had and that. But it hasn't only been this summer. Pogba's been subject to a lot of transfer speculation. Don't forget, reflecting back last summer, Pogba was subjected to a lot of transfer speculation, obviously based on his poor relationship with Jose Mourinho and that. But I'm glad that we've convinced him to stay at the football club at least until January. Obviously, we paid £89 million for Paul Pogba. He is our most expensive player in that. Obviously, he's now into his 4th season at Man United. Since he rejoined from Juventus back in 2016, he's won the Europa League and League Cup with us. That came in his 2nd season and that at the football club. But Zinedine Zidane, did identify Pogba as his number 1 priority target, throughout the course of the summer, don't forget. So he'd be infuriated that I didn't get him, but more than likely Real Madrid will reignite their interest in January. Paul Pogba did classify Real Madrid as one of the biggest clubs in the world, and he did say at some point in his career he does want to represent Real Madrid. But I think he actually did say Adidas had a big part to play in Pogba staying at the club this summer, because Adidas, wanted Pogba to stay at Man United because they believe, it's better for them commercially and that. Pogba hasn't, been great this season, the games he has played, and I think he did play in the fourthest games, obviously, fourthest games of the season, obviously, before he sustained that ankle injury. But we do know when he's on form, the difference he can make in that midfield. He's good at feeding the attacks ahead of him. He can score goals, he can provide assists and that. But we have seen him at his best as a Manchester United player. But I do believe if he doesn't go in January, he definitely will go next summer. I think he will. I think he'll definitely be gone by 2021. Will Paul Pogba, in my opinion. Especially, if we do, continue with this lack of competitiveness. Like I did say, we got some good news this week. At least, like I've updated you on, Victor Lindelof, signed a new long-term contract at Man United, which is very, very good. De Gea, signed a new long-term contract at Man United. But we have sorted them contract renewals out, because at one point, that was a problem. Getting players new contracts and that. Obviously, we were getting a lot of criticism, for letting certain players' contracts run down. Like we did with Ander Herrera. We nearly did it initially, with Juan Mata. But we got quite a few players contracts who were currently in their last years of their deals. We did it with De Gea recently. That was on Monday this week. Obviously, we did it, with, Rashford early on in the summer. We did it with Anthony Martial, don't forget, we did it with Juan Mata and that. But yeah, we have now sorted them contract renewals out. But for me, nothing much really more to say. I've already given you, the reasons why it didn't work out I gave you the reasons why it didn't work out in all in the other managerial areas, why it didn't work out and that, because obviously I said under Mourinho, I've already given you the reasons why it didn't work out under him, because obviously the board didn't back the signings that I wanted to recommend in last summer, and that's a signal sign then your tenure's not working out at Man United. That's what he told him. Obviously he had bad disputes with the board and the top players. Obviously I think we also recommended him too late. Maybe if we'd have got Mourinho in after Ferguson there, it may have been a different scenario at that point and that, but maybe we did appoint him in too late. Mourinho won the Europa League and League Cup in his first season at the football club and that, but we got rid of him because he just didn't exceed expectation levels at Man United and that. Obviously I think we got second, in his first season that, Mourinho, but it just didn't work out under him, and there was no sort of, the philosophy wasn't right, it was part of the bus football under Mourinho, and I think it was like, and obviously, under Louis van Gaal as well, it didn't work out under him because obviously, he didn't have the right sort of philosophy in that, and so it's just, under Moyes as well. I told you why it didn't work out under him. So I just don't know, to be quite honest. Maybe people are believing now there needs to be fundamental changes. At the board, I've probably the vast majority of Man United fans believe that the board are a liability. Can they assure them structural changes? Are they going to bring the players in that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer wants in January or next summer? That is the big question, indeed. But we're never going to be the team that was under Alex Ferguson. We're never going to replicate what we did under Alex Ferguson. For 20 odd years and that. And that's something obviously we have got to accept. But yeah, disappointing result today, losing 2-0. And I said it was going to be a tough game because West Ham have done really, really well this season. Obviously, I think West Ham did get quite a few players in throughout the course of the summer as well. West Ham did have quite a few injuries before the game as well. They had Lanzini out, they had Winston Reid out, they had Mikel Antonio out and that. So I don't know where we are now in the table, to be quite honest. I haven't looked at it. If we'd have won today, I think we could have maybe gone third or maybe even second. Yeah, so I think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has lost it at Manchester United basically now. I've just been watching some fan cams and you've got the vast majority of Man United fans now demanding him out in the football club, and really nothing much more to say, to be quite honest, yeah. So anyway guys, drop your comments, likes below on the channel if you do consider subscribe as always, and take care, God bless, and I'll see you all again very, very soon. Thanks for watching.